Uphold the conviction. Prosecutors tell judge to keep Kartel in prison as evidence was enough to lock him away. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Archibald Gordon.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, we are doing our best. NWC says it's working on providing water to Portland.
Another dump on fire. Residents in St. Anne's suffer as smoke from the Haddon dump blankets communities.
Fearing the worst, fishermen in St. Anne worry they are not prepared for a hurricane.
Visit Africa. Namibia waives visa requirement for Jamaicans.
And in business news, new telecoms, tech company pushing for its own network after citing unreliability of local telcos.
There is also sports post commentary and weather in the primetime package. But before the break, the feedback question.
This evening we're asking, what is your reaction to the argument so far in the Kartel appeal?
Share comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica and tweet at Television Jam.
Please stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Today, prosecutors insisted that even if there is merit in the arguments raised by the appellant's attorneys, the jury would still have come back with a guilty verdict given the evidence against the men.
Prosecutors spent the afternoon ripping into the arguments about a contaminated jury, among other things. TVJ's Vashon Brown is covering the appeal.
The second day of oral submissions from the prosecution, the court heard arguments from Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Jeremy Taylor. The first issue, the alleged case of bribery by one juror on March 13, 2014. The trial judge decided to allow the jury to deliberate after the issue was brought to his attention, but he first reminded the jurors of their oath. Lawyers for the appellants said Kartel and his co-accused were tried by a contaminated and tainted jury. Prosecutors told the court today that what the trial judge had before him was merely an allegation. That allegation would need an inquiry. Jeremy Taylor argued that there were limits to the type of inquiry that the trial judge could have conducted. In fact, Mr. Taylor said an inquiry would mean the rule of secrecy would be breached. That's because jurors would be questioned about what they said and heard while in the jury room. For the prosecution, the retired High Court Judge Justice Lennox Campbell recognized his limits. Mr. Taylor said failure to discharge the jury because of the bribery allegation cannot amount to a miscarriage of justice. The prosecutors argued that the trial judge did the right thing by not discharging the jury. Lawyers for the appellants last week argued that there was undue pressure on the jurors to deliver a verdict. The jury was sent to deliberate 18 minutes to 4 p.m. on Thursday, March 13, 2014. The lawyers for the appellants argued that the review of the evidence was impossible to take place at that time. Evidence of over 20 witnesses, 5 unsworn statements, 27 exhibits, and 2 weeks of summation. Today, the prosecutors told the court that it does not follow that because the jury was retired after 3 p.m. means there was any undue pressure. Jeremy Taylor maintained that there was no evidence that the verdict was rushed. Another issue is the credibility and consistency of Lamar Chow's evidence. Chow was the Crown's main witness. According to the prosecution, the trial judge told the jury how to deal with the discrepancies in Chow's evidence, especially as it relates to the time he arrived at Swallowfield Avenue. As it relates to the chop-up text message, the prosecution insisted that it showed Kartel's state of mind. In fact, the prosecution went further and asked the appeal court to treat that specific text as an admission of murder. As for Sean Campbell, the prosecution is sticking to the argument that he was part of a common design, which essentially means that he was part of a plan and actively participated in Lizard's murder. Prosecutors argued that Campbell took Lizard to Swallowfield. They further argued that Campbell sent a text message saying, "People are dead." Jeremy Taylor told the court that this is evidence of foresight. According to the prosecution, he knew what was going to happen to Clive Lizard Williams. Mr. Taylor said even though he wasn't there when the crime was committed, he cannot be excluded. So the prosecution wrapped up its oral submissions to the Court of Appeal today. Lawyers for the appellants are expected to respond when the matter resumes tomorrow. Reporting from the Court of Appeal in downtown Kingston, I am Vashon Brown for TVJ News.